Hi everyone, it's Kelly from the Hub. I'm here today with Lauren from Compass Mark. Lauren, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. Remember, Lauren's been doing a lot of good stuff with us. We talked about some conflict resolution and some stress and all those kinds of things. And today we're going to talk about bullying, which I think is very apropos of the universe that we live in. And certainly, I think this topic can apply to sort of everyone across all ages, genders, races, countries. So let's get to getting. You are always good about saying to us, what is it? So, what is
Sure.
it?
That's a great place to start, right? And I feel
Yep.
like bullying is something in our society that has gotten a lot of awareness over the last couple decades, which is a great thing. But because of that, it's also been a little overused at times too, or maybe misused. So the first thing we have to do is we have to understand what it is. And it's remarkable how many people of all ages don't really understand what bullying is. So bullying, by its definition, is a repeated aggressive behavior intended to hurt someone. So there's a couple parts to that definition that matter or that are really important. The first part is that it is repeated. Um, just by human nature, there are times in our life where we are going to hurt someone's feelings. We are going to say the wrong thing, or we're going to do the wrong thing. It's just going to happen, unfortunately.
Right.
What we have to do is we have to learn from that experience. We have to apologize. We have to, correct our behavior when we do have those moments. If we repeat the behavior, knowing full well the impact that it could be having on that person, that's when it might be bullying, because we know for sure what we're doing and we keep doing it anyway. Um, the other part of the definition is the intention. This is huge. So we talk about conflict and how conflict can be violent, conflict can be, intense and everything else. And even just violence in general is any harm done to another person. The difference with bullying is that it is targeted. So it's targeted and it's on purpose. So there's no mistake here, no accidental cause happening here. I like to use an example. Say we're walking down the hallway and one of the people you're with trips, and we all just start to laugh or giggle. Are we bullying that person? If you want to answer, you can, or I can just give
Well,
you the
I'm
answer.
actually thinking about the answer. So, is it's not repeated.
Nope.
Laughing could be interpreted as aggressive, but it's not typically considered aggressive behavior.
True.
And I mean, am I intending to harm someone? No. A lot of people laugh when people fall down. It's not nice, but it's what people do. I would say no. It's not a kind thing to do, but it's not bullying.
Exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. It's not a kind thing to do, but it's not bullying, right? So I don't, support people laughing at people for falling, but if it's, a reaction, something that you did, it's not bullying. However, let's say one person in this group found it really funny, noticed how upset the person got or how humiliated they felt. And so for the rest of the day, they continue to imitate them and they continue to bring it up or make jokes about them falling. Could that then be bullying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because they're not letting it go. It's going on and on. They're doing it to just that person,
Yes.
and
Exactly.
they know that it's hurting that person and they're doing it anyway. So yes, that one 100% bullying. You can hear my coworker, who's clearly also not pleased about what we're doing today.
Very
Hopefully
lively about it.
she'll quit.
Yeah. But yeah, so bullying, any kind of repeated aggressive behavior intended to hurt the other person. So when we keep that in mind, there's a couple questions that we can ask if we see a situation and we really want to try to figure out, is this bullying? And I like that you brought up that this is something that could happen among all people, right? This is not actually something that only happens with kids. We often see this with adults and even with older adults. In nursing homes, they actually have quite high rates for bullying that happens in those societies. Any kind of social society could have bullying in it. So these 4 questions, the first question is you want to ask, is this fair? So is what's happening to this person a fair situation? I like to tell kids that school is a place where everyone has to come. We have to learn, we have to be around each other. We need to get certain grades to be successful in life. That's how our education system is built. When we make that place unsafe, or we make it stressful, or we make them feel anxious, and it's because we're doing it to that person, then we made that unfair. We made that situation for them unfair. And so because of that, then that might be a sign that this could be bullying. The second question is to ask if this is one-sided. So this is when one person is getting something out of this that the other person is not. So for example, I'd like to ask kids, do any of you like to prank your friends? Because pranking is not exactly a nice behavior, right? But if you prank your friend, they prank you back, you prank them back, and you both understand that it's funny and you're both getting joy out of it, then it's not bullying. But if you have a friend who continues to prank you because they know that you don't like it, because they know that you feel humiliated or you feel really upset by it, or they're like exposing something about you that you don't want people to know, then that could be bullying because they're having fun and you're not. So now it makes it unbalanced and one-sided.
I think about
Yeah.
that in an office type of situation or any type of job that you have, right? Because sometimes it's funny to put plastic on the toilet seat so the pee goes everywhere. I mean, it's not. I mean, yeah, whatever. But you're right.
Yeah.
Those kinds of those office politics and those office relationships that people have, same. But if someone's constantly doing something to somebody else, you're right. That's where that line is. I know that there's always people who are gonna be like, well, what does repeated mean?
More than
More
once.
than once.
More than once, especially if the person asked you to stop and you kept going, then you're repeating it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The third one
Yep.
is interesting. It's is someone using power. So when we think of power, we tend to think of like control or money or success, especially in like the adult world. But power can come in a lot of inherent things too, like age. An older person picking on a younger person, or size, someone who happens to be stronger picking on someone who's weaker. Could be smarts, someone who happens to get good grades picking on someone who gets bad grades. It could be wealth, someone who comes to school with the best clothes and brand new electronics, and they pick on the kids whose families can't afford those things. And the biggest one that we do see, especially among kids, and actually a lot among adults too, especially when it comes to social media, is friendship and popularity, and using that over someone else. So if you have this opinion, I won't be friends with you. If you hang out with this person, I won't be friends with you. Or, because I have so many friends, I can control you now. The most typical bullying we see, from Mean Girls to anything else on TV, is the popular kids holding their popularity over the kids who are not popular. So is there a power difference going on? And if there is, then it could be bullying.
Oh, I want to talk about that till the day is long, because you're right. And that it's interesting that you say that, because in kids, I think adults see what kids' behavior is very cut and dry. And younger kids, it can be, right? It can be a lot more like that. In high school age kids, that sort of middle school, high school age, things get a little more nuanced. And you're right, it becomes this struggle. And then in adults, it's the exact same issue, but it's got a lot of nuance and a lot of things. And you're right, it's the same stuff. It's about all the people who are right think this way about this issue, or everybody who's cool in our team believes that this is the best thing we should do with our team, not your dumb idea.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same stuff that we've done when we were kids, but now we think it's different somehow because we're adults. And the answer is, it ain't.
And it's not. Yeah. And we try to act like these situations are just conflicts, but they're not. There are conflicts that happen in office spaces or other places with adults. But again, if it is a targeted attack, if you follow the definition, this is intention and it's repeated, then there's a good chance that that person is singling someone out on purpose to bully them. And the final question to ask is just, how does it feel? So if the other person is getting hurt at all, it's worth looking into. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's definitely bullying. Like I said, we do hurt people's feelings sometimes. it happens, or excuse me, they could get offended or upset about something that wasn't intended to hurt them. But if someone's getting hurt repeatedly, it's worth looking into. It could be bullying. So there are a lot of different kinds of bullying, a lot of different bullying behaviors, big one being cyberbullying right now. And that's just me. That means anything that happens electronically, from text messages to emails to social media, of course. Physical bullying, any kind of hitting, which we tend to think a lot about with bullying, but the truth is that those trends have changed a lot over the last decade or so. And then verbal and emotional bullying, which is very common. I have kids sometimes telling me things like gossip isn't bullying or rumors aren't bullying. But again, it doesn't matter what the behavior is. If you look at the definition and ask those 4 questions and they're true, if you're making an unfair environment for someone, if someone's having fun but someone is not, if there's power difference, and if they're not feeling good about it and it's been repeated, then it's probably bullying. So that's just important to look at.
Cyberbullying is definitely a thing that I know a lot of kids are concerned about, parents are concerned about, communities are concerned about, because it's easy to sit behind the screen. A little less easy when I can see your face, like how we're doing this.
Sure.
But it's when you can't see someone's face and you can say a lot of hateful things. And we've seen news reports where
absolutely,
kids hurt themselves because of that.
Yeah, and we tend to, I bring up the point that, if a kid comes to school with a black eye, then people are going to ask questions. The teacher's going to ask questions. The students are going to ask questions. Someone is going to, hopefully, ideally, get that kid help and figure out what caused the black eye.
Right.
If a kid comes to school with a broken heart or feeling incredibly rejected or insecure or with a really low self-esteem, we might not see that. The kids might not see that.
Or you might write that off as that's just teenage behavior.
Sure. Yeah, we might justify it with some other kind of situation. We might not know that this bullying is actually happening. So it is really important to note that there are so many different kinds of bullying, and sometimes it's hard to see the symptoms of it. But just keeping an open dialogue, and also a big thing is having a school or an environment, office environment even, where reporting is celebrated. That's the biggest argument I have with kids when it comes to bullying is, I'm not a snitch or I'm not a tattle.
Of course.
But they're not the same thing.
Of course. And who are you supposed to tell?
Yeah.
Because especially when it's about power and it's about power.
Yeah.
When it's about power and kid A gets bullied by kid B, and kid B is popular and charming and smart and an athlete and and all the list of those things, then some people would have tendencies not to believe kid A when they say that kid B was doing stuff to them, because that's hard.
That's true. And I mean, adults are not perfect beings.
Yep.
So I always tell kids that when you do report, if you feel like that adult didn't believe you, or that they, they haven't done anything and it continues on, then go to someone else. Okay. There will be an adult there who will hear you. But yeah, I do try to explain that when we're reporting, tattling and snitching is telling on someone to get them in trouble. Like, that's it. And it's usually none of your business, and it's usually not a big deal.
Right.
Like, Johnny's working on his homework. Like, okay, why are you telling me? So it's usually no one's business.
Right.
But I try to correct the thought that, reporting isn't telling on the bully. It's telling for the victim. It's telling someone that someone is getting hurt, whether that's you or your friend or a complete stranger. You are just bringing the facts to someone who is better equipped to handle it than you or your friends. So, thinking as an empathetic human being, just looking out for those around us by just telling, I saw this thing happen and I need to let someone know that it happened.
I think every school needs to have a Lauren.
Most schools have someone like me.
I know. I
But
think in
yeah.
the adult world, everybody should have a Lauren in their job. I mean, but you're right. There should be a place that you can report those kinds of things and
Yeah.
to be fairly listened to.
Hmm. It's
Yeah.
also important too to know that just because something gets reported, I do hear from kids too, like, oh well, they didn't get suspended or they didn't get in trouble. But we can't really say for sure what happened with the bully, and it's honestly none of our business at that point. Something really important to understand about bullying is there's a reason that bully is bullying, and the reasons could go on and on and on, even for adults. It
Right.
usually comes from some sense of insecurity and some desire for control, and that could come from a lot of things.
Because
So
usually they were hurt really deeply, and so they are lashing out to sort of make up for that hurt that they experienced somewhere along the line. Right.
absolutely. I
Right.
can't control my own feelings and what happens to me, but I can control what happens to you,
Right.
is usually a mindset that they have subconsciously about it.
Right.
Um,
And it's not to say that what that person does as behavior is justified. It's not justified, but it gives you an explanation for why they have tendencies to do those kinds of things.
exactly. Some bullies are just people who don't know how to make friends, weren't introduced to how to make friends, so they use it as a defense mechanism to, I mean, look at Mean Girls, for example. I'm assuming that you've seen it with Regina George. I mean, her friendships, the people closest to her, when given the opportunity to turn on her, did in a moment's notice. And there was no love in that relationship. But what she did was she controlled that school through fear and through popularity. So,
And it
so
worked until it didn't.
exactly. It
Because
works
that's one
until
of
it
those
didn't.
things, like, yes, there are some people who have been bullies their entire lives and will be bullies as adults. It
That's
will
true.
work until it doesn't.
That is very true. And
Usually that when that moment, and the older you get, the probably the worse it's going to be. That's going
yeah,
to be a real tough moment to be able that you're going to have to face.
that is really true.
Yeah.
And that's why, when we don't know if the bully got in trouble or what happened, hopefully what happened is that bully is now talking to a counselor or talking to a therapist or talking to the principal or talking to someone who can help them recognize their behavior and actually find a solution to it. That's a better solution, in my opinion, than just suspending the kid or getting them in trouble. Actually trying to figure out the root of what the issue is.
Thank you, Lauren. This every time you talk, we learn new things.
Of course, of
Totally.
course. So I did have one more point if you want to hear it, just
Absolutely.
about so from the victim's perspective of someone who might have experienced bullying, we often are left with the question, what do we do? Like, what can we do about it? And I tend to hear kids saying that they would fight back. They would, punch that bully back, or they would spread a rumor around about them, or they'll just post something about that person or whatever it might be. But fire doesn't fight fire. And the truth is that if we really examine what a bully wants from someone, like, what is their end goal? What are they trying to accomplish? They want to control your emotions or your behavior. They want to see you get upset, whether you're sad, scared, or angry. So if we fight back with our fists or even our words, then we're actually showing them exactly what they wanted. And we're actually letting them win,
Right.
even though we don't always see it that way.
Right.
But when people say ignore a bully, they're not just saying it to give you an easy answer. It honestly does work, because we're telling that bully that what they're doing can't affect us, that we're untouchable, that we cannot be controlled by them. And then like you said, they might be a lifelong bully and they'll probably move on to another victim, but it won't be you.
Right.
So, a really good technique is just to remain assertive, confident, and try not to show that it affected you.
That's hard. That's hard.
It is hard.
And that's why it's good to talk to someone about it, because when you're in it, and we all know that, it's really easy to give advice and it's wicked hard to take. And when you're in it, sometimes you can't even see what the parts are around you. But if you have someone that you can talk to, no matter who that person is, someone that you can talk to, then you can go, oh, I was not, that's what's going on. I mean, we've all been in that situation, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now I know how to behave because now someone helped me see what was actually happening. Because that
Yeah.
self-awareness can be real difficult.
That's
Yeah.
very true.
No matter
Absolutely.
what age you are, because you're just caught up in your own thing. You're just caught
So
up.
true.
So thank you so much, Lauren.
Of
We'll have
course.
another great topic next week.
Yes.
All right. See
All
ya.
right. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.